So I'm going to open us with a chalice lighting from Brene Brown. And she does a lot of research around vulnerability, which is my topic for tonight. And she says, vulnerability isn't good or bad. It's not what we call a dark emotion, nor is it always a light, positive experience. Vulnerability is the core of all emotions and feelings. To feel is to be vulnerable. To believe vulnerability is weakness is to believe that feeling is weakness. To foreclose on our emotional life out of a fear that the costs will be too high is to walk away from the very thing that gives purpose and meaning to living. Our rejection of vulnerability often stems from our associating it with dark emotions like fear, shame, grief, sadness, and disappointment. Emotions that we don't want to discuss, even when they profoundly affect the way we live, love, work, and even lead. What most of us fail to understand, and what took me a decade of research to learn, is that vulnerability is also the cradle of the emotions and experiences that we crave. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It is the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. If we want greater clarity in our purpose or deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, vulnerability is the path. So I know that this week has been really full of ups and downs for me and for a lot of the other parents and caregivers that I've been talking to. And just a couple of hours ago, we heard an announcement that schools are going to remain closed through May 4th at this point. And that was big news in our house. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to open it up for folks to say what might be on their hearts about that in response to that and where your family is.
Well, I heard about that announcement from one of my sons who came into the room where I was working, and he was just so frustrated and really, just devastated. He had hoped to be together with his friends sooner. And it just felt like something had been taken away from him. And I wanted to say to him, it's all going to be okay. It's fine. Buck up. But I couldn't really, so that made me feel very, just like, I don't know what I have to offer that's going to heal this wound.
Yeah, a friend texted me to say, turn on the news when the governor was talking. And so I turned it on, and all the kids were in the living room to hear it. And yeah, one of them just said, I don't know how I'm going to stand it.
Hmm.
I've only been home a week and already I'm bored and stir crazy. And so I think it is going to take our deep reserves of those things she was mentioning, like hope and creativity. And, for us, sometimes there's going to be fighting
Hmm.
because I feel like they want to move into the teenage time cycle. And sometimes that means that they don't get a lot of sunshine. And that's that piece is not negotiable for me. They need to get out in the sun every day.
Hmm.
So part of it is thinking about, okay, picking my battles for the next 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I guess I don't know if I dare say this, but I'm actually, I'm okay with this. I'm not, and some part of me, well, the part of me that cares about their health and our health and, the whole public health is like, yes, do this. Just cancel the year for now. Like, why even worry about it again? Because that's what's going to happen. But the other part of me that, like, thinking back to when the world hadn't changed, says, I've always wanted the opportunity to homeschool for some period of time.
Mm.
And this is it. This is great. Um, it helps that I have a 10-year-old and an almost 8-year-old. And the 10-year-old is, on the verge of really wanting to be with friends all the time anyway, but still is okay with hanging out with mom and dad,
Mhm.
um, and learning together with us. So for me, that's actually a huge blessing because just because of a you know combination of circumstances, I haven't had that opportunity to really get to know my older Elizabeth as deeply as I have Abby, because Elizabeth is with friends more often, which means that Abby is with me, which means it's great for my relationship with Abby, but that hasn't evolved with Elizabeth as much yet. Um, so I'm actually very, pleased that with the opportunity to sort of cement that relationship, as she moves into tweenhood and teenhood. So that's, you know, and it's actually like this plays into it professionally as well, because I have been, not at a full-time job since middle of last year or second half of last year. And but all these events make a huge fertile environment for me to do as much work as I possibly can and then have additional clients beyond that, which is good, yet conflicts with wanting to, you know, continue to build and deepen the relationships with my kids. So that's something I'll be navigating.
Well, my teenagers, ... not so much. But I think that news today, when I heard it, I found myself, and I continue to wonder, what is my place in supporting families? in this time, because I feel like the family unit has gotten closer and more closed in some ways, because of the physical distance. So, how does the minister as interloper actually show up in the lives of kids? And what, there's the baseline question of like, what can I do to support the parents? That's a kind of a given, but more specifically, what can I do to be a presence in the life of the young people in the congregation and the community? And I'm thinking like, okay, I guess I start doing a class every week, of Unitarian Universalist history, which again, it goes back to that question of like, well, are these things that we should be doing anyhow? So, yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for sharing. I'm going to invite us into a spiritual practice. I have a reading for you from the Book of Awakening, which is by Mark Nepo. And then there are a couple of reflection and practice questions at the end that I'll invite you into. This is called Feeling Your Feelings. This sounds pretty simple, but though it's easy to know you have feelings, easy to know their weight and agitation and suddenness of mood, it's another more subtle matter to feel them. That is, to let them penetrate your being the way wind snaps through a flag. This is necessary because if we don't feel our feelings all the way through, they never leave us. And then we do all kinds of unusual things to get out from under them. This is the cause of many an addiction. I've diverted myself many times by becoming involved in what surrounds my pain or sadness, while never feeling the thing itself. So when someone asks me how I feel, I wind up retelling the circumstance of the pain, but not feeling it, or strategizing what to do next, but not feeling it, or anticipating reactions, but not feeling what is mine to feel, or swimming in the anger of injustice, but not diving through the wound. Though we fear it, feeling our feelings is the only clear and direct way to free our hearts of pain. So I invite you now to take a moment and think about, what are the ways that you might avoid your feelings? In your silence, stop holding them off with words or reasons or busyness. Simply be ashore and let your feelings wash against you like waves. Feel your feelings. I'm going to invite everybody into a breathing practice. And it's because when I really feel my feelings right now, the thing that happens for me is really adrenalized. I feel like I just want to do something, something physical, something concrete, something that gets my blood pumping and allows me to let go of some of the stress. And so I've been learning a little bit about the parasympathetic response. So instead of this adrenalized fight, flight, flee response, the parasympathetic response is the tend, mend, and befriend response. And right now, a lot of us, I think, are struggling with this sense of wanting to do something. And sometimes movement is the last thing we can do right now. So, one of the things that I learned is a practice of deep abdominal breathing, which helps to activate the vagus nerve, which controls the parasympathetic response and helps us soothe adrenaline levels and blood pressure. And it's a very simple practice. I invite you to put your hands on your stomach and just take a breath, trying to move your stomach instead of your upper chest. So breathe in and see if you can feel your stomach rise, and breathe out. See if you can feel your stomach contract. That's the deep abdominal breathing that we're looking for. And the other piece is that you want your out breath to be longer than your in breath. So when people are chanting or singing together, some of this response is evoked, partly because we're breathing in a short breath and then we're breathing out a long breath. So together, I'm just going to invite us to breathe into a count of 3 and then out to a count of 5. So let's do that together a couple of times. And breathe in, 2, 3, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I invite you to just let yourself move into your own body's rhythm of deep breathing for a minute. And I will ring the singing bowl when a minute is over. And now I'd like to invite everybody to join me in singing Spirit of Life. What I'm going to do is I am going to share some video with you, and the way that Zoom works is not ideal for singing together at the same time. So I will be muting all of the participants so that you can sing along at home. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And I would like to extinguish our chalice together. We have some traditional words that some of you may know and would like to say along with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you so much, everyone.